It's really good. I'm really looking forward to talking to you. Welcome. Welcome very much to Manhattan Network.
Yeah,
and in the audience, welcome very much to Conversations. It's a pleasure to welcome to the program two people who are very involved with a very interesting organization called the Harbor...
The Working Harbor.
Working Harbor, that's it. Working Harbor Committee, and they're concerned with New York City Harbor, which is a tremendous natural occurrence here. It's an important harbor, and we're going to be talking about it. It's really very interesting. I want to introduce them, get into a discussion of all that, and if I could, on my far left is Meg Black, and she's the program director for the Working Harbor Commission. And Meg, welcome very, very much to Conversations. We have some things having to do with your educational efforts. And on the immediate left is the executive director of the Working Harbor Commission, and that's Captain John Doswell. And John, welcome very much to Captain John, I should say.
Oh, Captain John.
Captain John has a great ring to it, yeah.
Yeah, I can tell. And it's the Working Harbor Committee, actually.
Committee, I'm sorry, not commission. Yeah, committee, I'm sorry.
We're not-for-profit. We're non-government agencies.
Right, okay, very good. Maybe share just a little bit your background, if you could, quickly, and then we'll get into and talk about it. But please, if you could.
Well, I've been a boater all my life. I've always been on the water in one way or another. But as a career, I actually produced shows for industrial shows for clients like IBM for a long time, produced computer software, but I always had a love for the water, and had a boat, lived on a boat. But in the past, I'd say now 12 years or 14 years, I started developing more of an interest in the west side of Manhattan and our harbor here. I was always on the road in other countries or other cities. So that's in the last 10 or 12 years as Hudson River Park developed and things like that. I've become very involved with the waterfront in our area.
It's a magnificent harbor, is it not?
And really started to discover it in a new way, and been on the harbor, been all around. And as we started this organization a few years ago, now gotten really familiar with the Working Harbor, which is we'll talk more about, but that aspect of it. I've been involved with recreational, but this is turning out to be quite an interesting thing, the Working Harbor itself. And
because it's
tugboats in the container yards.
New York City was so located at the mouth of the Hudson, so it could tap into the hinterland, and it became an entrepot.
Well, that's what made the city.
Yes, yeah, right.
It was a port city from the inception, and then more so when the Erie Canal opened about, then it became a route for goods to get to Chicago in the Midwest.
I know, it's amazing.
And that made it, but it changed, and I don't want to jump into it too soon, but I can tell you a little bit about how the harbor, the Working Harbor, evolved over time. But so when we get to that, I'll come back and talk a little bit more about that.
Yeah, and
it's quite an interesting transition, and we're still in transition today.
It's been sea or waterborne transportation has been a preferred route for humanity over a long period of time.
Oh, yeah.
You think of the major cities are located near so that they can take advantage of the advantages. And if they don't have that, they'll build canals so that they can integrate that into their transportation and commerce
absolutely right.
setting, because there are economies that are realized through water transportation, I believe.
Well, that was absolutely, and of course that was true. And of course right now, we had, I guess, a heyday. There was a time when the harbor was filled with commercial boats of all time, going back to sail, but also the transition of sail to steam. And there was tugboats, there were ferry boats, there were freighters, there were passenger ships. That's the only way you could get to Europe was by ship.
I remember.
Okay. And so it was quite a different scene then. And apparently, if you go out in the harbor today, you don't see quite the level of activity. But what you discover when you go out after a while, you realize it's all still there, but fewer ships can carry more goods. So one ship today carries what 20 or 30 ships used to carry. They're more condensed, more compact with containers.
Containers,
and the same with the passenger ships. The cruise ships now come in. The passenger ships don't exist because the airplanes, you fly to Europe. But one cruise ship now carries 3 or 4, it makes the Titanic look tiny.
Really,
The cruise ship today holds 2,000 or 3,000 passengers, very wide. So that's happened. And then also the technologies have changed, and oddly enough, when the ferry boats kind of went away when the tunnels were built into the city.
Right.
And everybody drove in. But now, in the last 10 years or so, the ferry boats are starting to come back because the tunnels are clogged, and so now suddenly it becomes easier to take a ferry in. So ferry transit is going to really increase in the next 5 or 6 years.
Yeah, you're talking about the airplanes. I can remember I went to Europe as a young man going to Europe to make you go around in the summer, and there were no, you had to go on a ship. And it was great, in a way, to take a voyage across the ocean. It was really good. It was great fun and part of the journey, but it took 4 to 7 days.
Right.
And then you could fly in an airplane with the jets, and then it's just
So the last one that
changed.
does that now is the Canard. They do once in a while.
They're still doing a Canard run?
Yeah.
Are they really?
With
What's the name of the ship? Do you know?
QE2 is taking her last trip this summer.
Really?
She'll be going to Dubai. She's going to be a hotel eventually, unfortunately, but whatever. At least she's not going to be scrapped.
Right, and the Queen Mary,
Queen Mary
burst out in Long
Brooklyn.
Beach. Or is
No,
it?
the first Queen Mary is in Long Beach.
Yeah.
Queen Mary 2, which is much longer, is actually comes into New York, and that's going to be a regular visitor, and she berths at Red Hook.
Whatever happened to the United States? The ship. That's the one I came back from Europe on.
It's purchased by a cruise line, but nothing's happened yet.
Nothing's happened with it. Now it's a cruise line thing. It's a vacation thing to go on the ship.
I think it was Carnival, but I'm not certain. But one of the cruise lines bought her, and they were going to flag her as a U.S. ship so they could do Hawaii runs and so forth.
Right.
And nothing's happened yet.
Yeah, and that's part of the commerce. And then you said also the containerization. I don't know when that kicked in, around
about 50 years ago. I'll tell you exactly. Because last year was the 50th anniversary. A guy named Malcolm, if I can remember his last name, had put about 40 containers on a ship out of Newark. It was actually a tanker. It was converted. Shipped them to Houston. It was 51 years ago. And that was the beginning of containerization.
It was.
The Vietnam War is actually where it picked up, because the Navy started using, Navy transport started using containers in the Vietnam War because there was no standardization up to that point. And then in the last 20 or 30 years, it's ramped up immediately
and you get
because it's so much more efficient.
Yeah, it's so much more efficient. And there, I think I spoke to you on the phone. I had a friend who was a right-hand man to Henry Bridges, who ran the stevedores union, or the longshoremen's union in the West Coast. And he wrote the book on how are they going to deal in a union way, or with the workers who were being displaced. And that had to be worked out contractually, and it was important because
hugely labor saver. So I'm sure that they were not so happy with it. But the cost different. The ship now by container today, whatever, and a lot of goods, of course, come from the Far East. You know, the goods come in.
Number of things I notice come in from China these days.
The cost to ship something from China or wherever, any kind of good, iPod or whatever, is pennies, less than pennies. It's a tiny fraction. The transportation cost is so efficient that the cost of transportation is hardly a factor.
Maybe a major factor in the phenomena that we call globalization, in a sense, because we talk a lot about how you can be on a computer with Bangalore to get services done or something like that. But it's also, we're tied to things and exchange. And when you got that efficient containerization, as you say, and the efficiency and the economies that are realized.
The whole thing is nobody touches the goods, too. It gets packed at a factory in a box, which is 40 feet typically.
Is it a standard size?
Whether it's basically a standard container is 40 feet. There are 20-footers, there are 50-footers, 99% of them are 40 feet. And the other
99%,
the
that's
vast
pretty high
majority,
percentage, okay.
Almost, when you see any, I'll show you some in a minute.
Right, yeah, we're going to see that.
90% of the containers, 95% are the 40-foot standard containers.
Okay, and what are the other dimensions?
Then 20-foot, they're all 8 by 8.
They're all 8 by 8.
Yeah,
that's wide and high.
But they're different lengths.
And they're all standard, 8 by 8 by 40. Is that it? 99%?
They actually use a term in the shipping industry called a 20-foot equivalent unit, or TEU, and that it stands for a 20-foot container. But you rarely see 20-foot containers, but they use the measure. So a ship will be said to hold like 2,000 TEUs. That's like 1,000 containers.
I see.
Yeah,
well, okay.
Take the number and cut it in half.
Yeah, that's interesting. And that's standard around the
body. Well, they go on a truck body.
Yeah.
They go on trains, sometimes stacked.
Right.
They go on barges, and they go on ships, so they're intermodal. That's the big value. So you pack your goods at a factory somewhere, you put them in your container, the truck picks it up, takes it to a terminal, goes on a ship, goes to wherever, gets back in a truck, goes to the consumer.
What about the
and nobody touches the goods.
Nobody touches the goods. What about the things, if I may, we're on this theme for a minute. We're going to show some video and so forth and all that about the harbor, and you're calling attention to it. I really thank you for that. That's important. But what about the idea that somebody could, let's just say at the realm of security, put a dirty atomic bomb within a container and blow it up in New York?
Well, you know, there are any number of other ways you can do that too. So
yes, that's true.
We're living in an age where, you know, there's got to be 100 different ways, and the way that's going to happen next is one that we haven't even thought of.
Yeah,
right?
that's like right.
So to pick on containers is not really.
To pick on.
I'm just saying. But yeah, sure. So everyone's realized that, and in fact, I won't say 100% of the containers are X-rayed, but they can tell. They know at the source, not here, but where the containers are loaded. They have good profiles on what to look for. They know by history, and they spot check a certain percentage of them, and if there's any suspicion whatsoever, it gets segregated. But the kind of thing you're talking about, you don't even want the container coming into port, so sometimes ships are stopped by the Coast Guard offshore if there's any suspicion. And this stuff goes on all the time. And
there's a lot of that kind of thing going on?
They haven't found anything. I don't know.
But
does
that happen often from tips or something?
Tiny percent. Nobody's tried it yet, let's put it that way, that we know of. Yeah.
But it would be interesting. Go ahead, Meg.
The port terminals themselves have all of these safeguards in place. They scan the truckers as they even come in before they're able to pick up. There's U.S. Customs that are at the port terminals that scan the goods and make sure that there's no problem.
They can scan a container and know what's in it? Is that technology there or no?
Sure. For radiation?
They're looking.
They know what they're looking for. Radiation would be one thing.
And there are scans that can do that, like a bar scan or something like that. Well, how much more efficient can you get in a way?
Well, any truck on this end, like a goods going that way, or even the truck entrances are like giant X-ray machines. So it's like the airport almost. Trucks can't avoid it coming in.
Yeah, they do.
In and out.
And that process has a scanning technology built into it.
You get any kind of a trigger, they'll pull it truck over and do a deep inspection.
Well, that's good to know. That's something important, port security and everything. And you got huge. Long Beach is huge, and that kind of thing out on the West Coast, and I guess up. That's really important and everything like that. And the container. Now, does it follow through? The 40 by 8 by 8, does that follow through to the trucking industry?
Yes, it's
do they transport things around the country? That way by truck or train?
Truck or train.
And are they adjusting the logistics of trucks or something to handle containers?
That's been done now for many years.
Okay, that's how up to date I am.
Not all the trucks you see on the highway are containers. But a large percentage of them are. That you can't really tell the difference unless you know what you're looking for, because it's the same size as a regular tractor
Isn't that
trailer.
Something, yeah.
But a lot of the tractor trailers you see are really containers that could have come off a ship. And then of course there are others that are not.
And you can also tell by, if you're familiar with some of the names, as I was walking down to the studio today, I saw Evergreen. Now I know this is one of the
big shipping company.
One of the containers. So.
And that industry is a big industry. I guess that's export, import, and
we're the third largest in the country. California and Long Beach and L.A. They're number one.
Okay.
We're the largest on the East Coast. And it's a huge industry, and our tours, which we call hidden harbor tours, because nobody really sees this.
Yeah, right.
They're kind of tucked away waters that tourists usually don't see, but we go to, handle thousands and thousands and thousands of containers.
And where are the port of, what is it, embarkation, where do they end up on land here for the most part? Where do the ships berth?
I can show you.
Okay, you got a little thing here. What do you got here?
Yeah.
Are you going to, I don't think, maybe if let me hold it. Can I hold it?
Okay.
Like this. It might take a minute for them to come in. And give them a second to focus in, and then you can talk to this. And what is it that we're showing here?
Okay. Well, this is Manhattan. This is a chart of this area.
Right.
And you're seeing the tip of Manhattan. Here's the Hudson River.
Yeah.
And here's the East River.
Right.
In the old days, they all came into Manhattan. All the ships, all the freighters came into Manhattan, all around the edge. But when the containers came, they needed more space upland. They needed more area on land. So today, most of the containers follow up this waterway all the way.
Is that Jersey?
This is Staten Island.
Oh, Staten Island.
Staten Island. And this is New Jersey. They go up this waterway called Kilvan Call. They make a sharp right, and they go into Port New York and Port Elizabeth. So here is where the largest cranes are. I'll show you some pictures in a minute.
Okay, yeah.
Where the container ships are unloaded. There's one also around the corner, a New York Container Terminal. It's at Howland Hook. And then back in Brooklyn, there's a fairly good sized one right up here in Red Hook in this area. So those are the main container ports.
And that's where the ships head for now.
The container
With
ships.
the container
There are
ships.
also oil docks and there are other kinds of shipping, but the container ships, those are the main spots.
How much of the commercial travel or the commercial use of the water, the ships, are container ships? Are there others that are smaller or more?
Container
Is it practically all container
They come in
ships
all
now?
sizes. The small ones that go to Bermuda with maybe only have 500 containers, but the big ones that come from overseas can be 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 containers.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah,
they're used like a super tanker.
And then even locally, they'll put maybe 50 containers on a barge and take it to Long Island, too. So it varies.
It's a big business. Who operates that? I mean, are the maritime unions involved? Or who? There's an industry, and it must be worldwide. It must be a very big industry.
You have port operators that operate the terminals, and then you have the shipping companies.
Yeah.
Then you have the stevedores, which hire the longshoremen. The stevedore is a company that actually operates the labor force. So those are some of the players, and then of course you have agents that do the booking.
Is there a lot of labor involved? If you've got a thing and it's like Tinker Toys, you're going to put it from here onto there, it could be just almost automated or something.
It's very
compared to the old days.
It's very sophisticated. Actually, one of the supporters, the companies that stepped up in the beginning for us was Maersk Line, which is the largest shipping company in the world. And they actually have a video showing, it's a great educational tool called The Life of a T-Shirt. Showing from overseas how the whole process is done from the times of buying the piece goods, sewing, etc. So it's really the whole life. And then logistically, they show the warehouses and how everything is so automated. And this is part of our programs too, is to certainly bring people behind the scenes and by these terminals where you can see how a lot of times you can see when we're on these tours how these containers are automatically taken right off the ship.
Yeah, they're just a crane or something like that. And it's very, it would be like automating a process. We used to have the fellas who would do it by hand, unload burlap bags. And what a back-breaking kind of thing.
That was called break bulk carry, and there's still some, but that's not as much today. But yes, you're right. It used to be very labor intensive.
And then does it carry through to the distribution once they get here? I would think a company like Walmart would have a great interest in containerization and integrating that into their distribution, and that would be worked out by the shippers so that it would go. Maybe it would be even in the place where it's coming from, would have it designated to go to, say, Kentucky or something like that. I suppose that's all integrated as part of the supply chain.
Absolutely.
And it's part of an efficient thing. And it's integrated all over the world? I mean,
well, it's integrated in, certainly, in Europe is very big. We're very big, and Africa's coming along, some of the other countries in the world. Everybody's got container ports nowadays. Any city in the world will have a container port.
It's a huge event, isn't it, in human
But certainly
affairs?
Europe is very, was one of my, Europe and the U.S., and of course the Far East are the three big areas, I'd say, right now.
And the efficiency of that would be that anybody that's interested in developing and tapping into the market in the terms of physical things, other than just information, would be wanting to, the first thing, if you're in a country that's developing and has some exportable stuff, the first thing you'd want to do is make a, I would think, make a container port if you didn't have one.
Well, that's happening. New container ports are coming online all the time.
Who makes the containers?
You know,
is there an association of container makers?
You know, I'll tell you this. I don't really know the answer to that. But the containers are often made in the country of origin. A lot of the containers, since a lot of our stuff is imported from China especially, a lot of the containers are made there. We have a surplus because we import more than we export. We're building a surplus of containers. You see them being adaptively reused now in the U.S. for other uses, for garages. You can buy a container.
Aren't there some place where they're dropping things off in New Jersey? They're dropping...
That's subway cars.
Subway cars.
That's
and it's great for fish or something.
But the containers, we tend to import more containers then we export.
Containers like a cardboard box.
It's a steel box. Is what
Yeah, but I mean, it's like you go to the store and get something controlled, but you
but I
have
mean, it's a reusable box, so
Yeah,
we end up with a surplus of it.
So do they come here and they bring a bunch of stuff from China? What happens to that ship? That's a big ship. That's a lot of
what we export.
What do they do? They take some exports. Do they go back half loaded or something, or how do they make that?
What we export are two things: steel and paper. Used steel and used paper.
Really?
Yep.
Interesting, huh? Interesting.
That's the two biggest exports.
Is that right?
98% of
and
it.
They're done in
at least out of this harbor.
Out of this harbor, right?
Yeah.
And so we're exporting that with containers by and large. 99%, you said.
Exactly.
It's really interesting. What about the use of recreational? And you have to have tugboats that help. And you have a tugboat event, I know, that you sponsor and that kind of thing. And you're celebrating the harbor in a certain sense. And, well, you ought to, and I congratulate you on that. I think that's really interesting.
Now, what Meg, you should talk a little bit about what she
Yes, by all means, Meg. Yeah, you're the director of programs, so you're letting the children or people, the citizens.
We started this, I think, about 3 years ago. What I did was we implemented a program for younger youth who attended summer camp programs, where we would take them out on the harbor for a 2-hour narrated tour, very interactive. We had workbooks so they could identify.
Great idea. Yeah.
But what we did was we also, with the program, we started going to the schools beforehand, and Maersk Line, what they did was they supplied us with Lego models of a Maersk container vessel.
Okay.
So we had the children put together the Lego model, and I would go and talk to them about containers, container vessels, and make it very interactive, have them guess what was inside the containers that would come over. One of my favorites was cotton candy. I said, I'm sure the paper and the sugar. And then we'd also get them to look at the labels in their clothes to identify what country it came from. So that way we'd be able to talk about, at their level, about the economy and the importance of the industry. 2 years ago, what we did was we started a high school program. And the purpose of the program is to really acquaint students with the maritime industry as a whole.
Right, it's really interesting.
And what we do is we invite industry leaders to come to the schools with us and either talk directly to the students about their company or complement a subject being taught. An example of that is a representative, Lucy Ambrosino, from the Port Authority, New York, New Jersey, came to the South Bronx with me and taught an economics class. So we were able to tie in the whole concept of the working harbor with the micro-macro economics.
Well, there you go.
And talking about, so it gave the students something to really look at that was a little bit outside of their textbooks.
Right.
At the same time,
right. Yeah, you get out on the water,
An important part of this program is to also introduce this population to the types of jobs in the industry. Not many people know about the jobs that are available, and they're very well-paying jobs. And at all levels of education, we certainly are proponents of higher education, but there are jobs available with a high school diploma and technical school or a 4-year degree. And then we take them out for site visits. An example is
we've got a display over here. Maybe you could show.
And this is an example of some students from the Bronx, and this is at McAllister Towing.
Right.
Which has
here
been
we got a picture you can see on the screen.
Which has been which has been a terrific partner in helping us. This is Captain Joeline from McAllister explaining to students about the importance of tugboats, their role in the industry, the types of jobs, and that's in a pilot house. And the bottom picture is Bob.
Maybe scroll down. Over the bottom one, if you can scroll down to it. I don't know. They're going to have to. It's going to tape. The camera got a little sway, but anyway,
Bob Nixon from New York Container Terminal, who has been. They have been terrific. Jim Devine, the president. of actually sponsoring school groups to come out to the terminal for an actual tour of the terminal, where we take the students around on a bus and they actually can see the shipping vessels in the port. You can see containers being brought off. They show the warehousing, as I was discussing before, about the customs and what the trucks go through to be able to leave. So this is a very comprehensive program, and we're really thrilled on the type of partners that have come and are helping us with the program, are doing funding, always looking for more funders. But we think this is terrific to introduce this population.
Yeah. And it wouldn't be only for the students, and I think it would be of interest to all the citizens in a sense, because it's interesting. You have an adult education thing or a public education thing because it's inherently interesting. It is to me, and I think it would be to many people.
And that's the Hidden Harbor Tours.
That's the hit. What is it? Hidden?
We came up with the term, and it was 2 or 3 of us about 4 or 5 years ago, Hidden Harbor Tours, and what that meant was. And this is for everyone, you know, as I say, from seniors to families to, you know, all ages.
What a wonderful way to spend an afternoon.
Because we, and this is Peter Stanford. You had,
Peter Stanford's a wonderful gentleman.
He's the one that said the way to teach people about the harbor is to take them there.
To take them,
So we said, okay, we do that. So we charter boats. We don't own a boat. We charter boats. We take people and we go to these places. We go to the container ports. We go to the tugboat yards. And so forth. I've got some images that we could roll if you want.
Okay, we got a couple things. We'll just say to the audience, we have some images on cards we're going to show, but we also have a DVD. Okay, we've got a DVD. I guess we can get ready to roll that, and it's a DVD that we're going to talk over.
Now these
so
pictures,
it doesn't have audio.
All the pictures you're going to see when they roll were taken by one of our members who's a photographer, Bernie N.T.
Okay.
And they're all technically owned by him, but he lets us use them. He's
Thank you, Bernie. Thank you. So why don't we run that DVD? And then we'll talk to it, and we're talking again with John Doswell and Meg Black of the Working Harbor Committee. And so let's see, I think they're going to try and run that DVD now, and it may be that the button has to be pushed or something, but it will come up. There we go. So you can talk to this, John.
There's a series of images, and right here you're seeing a tugboat, and you can see from the prop wash, she's turning around in a very tight circle, another tugboat. We're going to see a couple of tugboats and opening images. They're the ones that move the barges around, but they also push ships into their berths. But
what are barges?
Barges, and you're going to see some in a minute. Here's just 3 kind of tugboats in a cluster. And the reason they have the tall pilot house is they can see over the top of a long barge. A barge is just a big steel box.
It's not a container.
No, it's a floating, it's like a ship with no engine. Bayonne Bridge, this is in New Jersey to Staten Island. Here's another a tugboat, and then behind it you see some more ships, and you start to see some of the cranes. But tugs do all the work. The workhorses. Here's the Brooklyn Bridge. That we go under. We go over the East River, and we go to New Jersey, and we go in the harbor.
In these places, are some places you go on your hidden tour?
And right now, here's one of the cranes. You can see a container ship on the left, and a crane's overhead, and they lift the containers off and put them down in the ground where they're picked up by other vehicles. And here's some more. And you can see that ship, and you'll see more of these, just crowded, those little dots. That's the end of it, 4x4 containers. There's another picture where you'll see them alongside. So these are these typical container cranes. A person up in the top runs it. Just one person runs it, lifts the containers off, and puts them down on the ground.
Puts them down.
Here's our
could have put it right down on them.
See the containers there. Now you got a side view, but also you see. Can you hold on this one for a second?
Can you hold that, Willie? Thanks.
If with our tours, what we do is we get people right up to where they can practically touch the containers.
Yeah, what a great thing.
So you see some of our, that's one of our tours. And we're right up, you can start rolling again. It's right up to the ship. The ship went right by, close by.
If you can start the DVD rolling again. There we go.
Now these are, we also have cruise ships that take people out. This one's headed out to the Atlantic by the
Where did they dock mostly?
On the west side of Manhattan and in Red Hook. There's one
like the old Queen Elizabeth used to do, yeah.
And so that's another element of the working harbor. And so you'll see those. And again, the ship like that holds thousands and thousands. This is one of a fireboat that I'm one of the owners of, actually, John J. Harvey. She's a retired fireboat, and we go out and spray water for the cruise ship.
Well, that's your spraying water for, is that for display?
Yeah, I can come back
They'll
to
put
some
out
of
a
those, but
fire
anyway.
on a boat?
But yeah, well, let me come back. This is a container ship. You can just see loaded and loaded. There's hundreds and hundreds, thousands of containers on a ship like that.
Boy, oh boy.
Another shot. Each one of those containers can go right on a truck body, or it can go on a train.
On a train.
Yeah.
And the trains
You see the tug
the
pushing.
rail lines come right to the
Come
dock?
right into the dock.
Well, New York Container Terminal just
got
completed.
Rail access.
Yes,
Having that
right
as
into their
having
terminal.
an up-to-date system like that is really part of an infrastructure, isn't it? Yeah.
Here's a barge on the left. I don't know how clearly you can see it. A barge is just a big steel box that floats in the water and carries whatever.
Yeah, but
And
where does it
tugboat
come
pushes
from?
It come and go. This barge has got railroad cars on it.
Railroad
car.
Oh, that's a barge.
That's a barge.
Wait a minute, a
and
barge is
railroad car.
big.
Yeah, it's big.
Yes.
It's a few hundred feet long.
Yeah.
There's another shot. And again, there's a tugboat pushing the barge. The barge has got railroad cars because there's no rail bridge between New Jersey and Manhattan.
Right.
So that's how, or Brooklyn. So that's how, and this ship in the background it's got cars. It's a car. It's a roll-on, off ship, ro-ro ship. And so it's just got big sides and it's filled with automobiles. Here's a tanker.
Like new automobiles from Detroit or something? Imported or exported?
Or whatever. Exactly, coming in.
Imported.
Mostly imported.
They don't put them inside containers?
No, they don't.
No.
Here's another ro-ro ship. If you watch
Interesting.
this, you'll see the tiny little tug pushing this giant ship. It's one of my favorite pictures. This was on a recent tour. All these pictures were from. There's Meg's, some of her students in the pilot house of a tugboat.
That's the picture.
McAllister.
Yeah, which we just saw. And there's a couple, and there's on deck, and these are students, but they put them in life jackets and hard hats and show them what it's like to be on a tugboat.
And the tugboat's
now,
the
with the last few pictures we've got.
Oh, here's the tugboat race.
Well, this is the parade. We do a parade up first.
Parade,
And then they turn around and they head south, and then you'll see the start. Now, there's a kind of a shot of them all looking across there. We got a couple like that.
Yeah.
We had 19 tugs in the last year at this particular race. And we'll do it again this year around Labor Day. Here is the shot of them all steaming downriver.
That's rich tradition, right?
And this is 15th year we did. These shots are from the 15th running of it.
Yeah, okay,
this
good.
Year will be the 16th.
Good.
Now here's a head-on shot.
What a great attraction.
Oh, it's fun.
Yeah. And it's open.
Right
Everybody can watch it from Manhattan.
Yes.
From the pier, yes, you can watch it, but what we also do is we have a special spectator boat where we sell tickets, of course, to
go along and be
to bring revenue into the working harbor
coffers.
committee.
Yeah.
Now you see two tugs nose to nose. They're pushing each other back, and it's like a tractor pull only in reverse. And they challenge each other. Here's a couple more tugs. They challenge each other, and then another contest is to see a tug coming into a dock throwing a line onto a cleat. You'll see a shot of there right now. He's throwing that line, catching onto a cleat. That's the line toss competition. So we do that. This is a whole day long bunch. There's a couple more shots of the line.
These things like lumberjacks used
It's
to
like
do.
exactly.
Yeah, a rodeo or something.
It's a rodeo for
it's great.
tugboats. Exactly what it is.
Yeah. That's good. That's really
you got
good.
it.
This is done during the summer months.
This is done in August. It's a Labor
Good
Day
time.
weekend.
Yeah, right.
This guy
right.
just got his hands in the air. He obviously did a good one.
Those tugboats are interesting.
They're
They're
very
uniquely made, I guess.
Now this
right?
guy won. We do a tattoo contest, and this guy won because you see his arm. He had a great set of tattoos on his arm. There.
You do a tattoo contest?
Yeah, because you know tugboat guys all have tattoos. And
Do they all?
guys.
Do
There's
they?
A few girls. Yeah.
Oh, that's really interesting.
And then we
yeah?
just closing it with a shot of a sailboat.
There's a sailboat,
That's
like
a
the old
schooner.
days, right?
Right, exactly.
That makes me think of Reed Stowe, who's an acquaintance of both of us. He's out
And here's
sailing.
a coast. This is actually a police. This is a new fireboat. That fast, short, quick fireboat out of.
Fireboat is to put out fires on a ship?
And just a closing shot.
Oh.
This is the end of it. But this is
That's a beautiful
kind of
shot. Yeah, that's beautiful.
Fireboats. There used to be. We used to have about 10 or 12 fireboats in the city back about 100 years ago.
You had how many?
10.
Okay,
fireboats.
what is a fire?
Well, there were piers would catch on fire. That was the biggest thing.
Really?
Piers.
Okay.
I'm going back 50, 100 years.
Yeah, right, okay.
Piers were wood, and they caught on fire with great regularity.
Oh, dear.
And so, and as well as vessels. And so you had a lot of fireboats. And they basically are fire trucks only on the water. It's just a fire truck on the water. And they use river water. They suck river water, and they, shoot water out.
That's pretty
of fire.
efficient. That's pretty efficient.
Now, nowadays, most of the piers, first of all, we don't have as many piers, and they're on concrete, and they have, you know, fire suppression systems and so forth.
Right.
So we don't get the pier fires anymore. We used, the last few pier fires were probably 10 or 20 years
You
back.
might get a ship fire.
And you do get ship fires occasionally.
Yeah.
So now the fleet of fireboats is down to about 2 or 3. The fire department now has 3 fireboats online.
Only? That's
big
pretty
ones.
few.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they figure that's about all they'll need. And actually it was going down. They weren't thinking of even doing anymore until 9/11. When 9/11 came, the fireboats actually came in to the on the water side at the North Cove Marina and hooked up hoses and supplied the fire hydrants because all the fire hydrants were out.
That's really,
And so and our fireboat, John J. Harvey, got recalled back into service. So we were down there pumping water.
We, when you say we.
Well, our volunteer crew.
I see,
And then along with the fire department. And it was quite an experience. But that's when the city after that decided maybe they needed some more fireboats. So now they're ordering 2 new fireboats.
2 new, so we'll have a few, but it's a vestige of the past. And what about those
Not
tugboats?
so much the past. They still use them.
They still use them, but it was used much more in the past.
There was one in Staten Island, a fire on a 2-bar gasoline barge caught on fire.
Right, okay.
And all the fireboats were there.
Yeah, something's got to put that out.
Yeah. Been used.
Yeah, well that's really good, and that's something that you want to keep.
Our boat is retired. We just do for fun anymore, but that was just an odd thing.
Right. It's really interesting that the ages, the things are changing, you know, and that sort of thing. But the tugboats, you were talking about the tugboat race. A tugboat, are they made in a special? They're little. They have a certain size.
But you know, they're almost all engine.
You can almost recognize one.
Yeah.
Are they built the way they look because of certain efficiencies at what they have to do?
Yes.
And do they do something special? And they seem like unsung heroes in the maritime picture of things. But
I'd say
and then
that's
you have
true. Yeah.
So what is a tugboat?
We have a couple of hundred tugs in New York Harbor. It's quite
to move those barges.
And
around.
they move barges. They help ships dock because ships when they come in.
Those
are
big
not
ships
the big
are
ships
really
need little tugs to help them get into their slip or twist around.
Right.
Right. So they do that. And that's probably the 2 main things: barge traffic and ship assist.
That's what they've traditionally
major
done.
things they do.
Did they have tugs back in the days of the clippers and stuff? They didn't sailing ships.
They had some steam tugs sometimes, and they would help because that was sailing ships. If there wasn't any wind a certain day, they couldn't get it in at all. So they'd have to have a steam tug come in and help them in. Before there were steam tugs, there was guys in rowboats.
that would be like Ahab or something. Yeah.
No, but it was steam tugs were the first.
It's interesting. It's part of the maritime history. You mentioned Peter Stanford. He's a beautiful fellow, and he's been involved with the history of the sea and so forth.
Right.
And he's also been a real good public citizen. I think he's involved with your committee.
He started it.
He started. Well, good bless him, because he used to run the. Wasn't he involved with the South Street?
He founded, or with some others, he was one of the founders of South Street Seaport.
All right, and then he also, there was a magazine that had to do with the sea.
Sea History Magazine.
Sea History Magazine, which is a handsome magazine, and the tradition of the sea is really important, and greater understanding of it now, and so that's important work that you're doing. Yeah. I congratulate you very much on that. Yeah, it must be an interesting place. Where are you all located, the offices and stuff? In Manhattan?
Yeah, we have on 43rd and 10th. We actually, Meg operates out of her office, which is separate, and my office is on 43rd, and we combine.
43rd and 10th?
10th, right.
Okay, well that's good. That's good. You're getting over toward the river.
We're close to the river.
You want to be close to your bailiwick.
She now sees the river every morning.
All right, that's good. That's good. Yeah. And it's been in effect for how long, the committee now?
We started in '92 was our first event.
Okay.
Not '92, 2000. What am I saying? 2002.
2002.
I just added
so
10 years on
to it. 5, 6 years.
So we're getting into our 7th year.
And I should think there'd be a lot of interest by the citizens of New York and so forth.
We started small. We had an event.
Are those events you sponsor?
People,
the tugboat races, popular and so forth?
It's getting more and more popular.
Getting good press coverage?
The tours, we've taken several thousand people out now.
Okay,
every
good.
Summer, every year, we take 3,000 or 4,000 people out at least.
Okay, and it's growing?
And growing.
Okay.
Well, the Working Harbor Committee started with one event a year celebrating Maritime Day in May by doing what's called Working Harbor Day, which we can let John talk about because we have Working Harbor Day coming up. This is where we take people out for reduced rates for Hidden Harbor Tours. It's a whole day celebration. And our upcoming is May 18th.
May 18th, we're going to be doing it again. Again, this will be the 7th year, I believe, or 6th or 7th year. We're a Working Harbor Day. And the big thing is we do low cost. We do half-price tours. We keep the price low.
Yeah.
We have a really nice vessel we're working with this year, which is Circle Line Downtown, a vessel called Zephyr. It's a big, white, beautiful boat that we love. And we'll be doing trips all day long, hour and a half. And at the South Street Seaport on Pier 16.
You're going from the South Street? That's where you'll launch from, or
right? Exactly.
Yeah. And you'll come around on the Hudson.
And we have one tour that goes through around the Brooklyn waterfront, and we have another tour that goes to Staten Island waterfront.
Okay.
And then at 6 p.m. that evening, we'll do a longer tour, which is our Sunset Special Tour. So we'll do a special one which takes in the whole harbor.
And that becomes like a party.
And that'll be,
Yes.
Yeah, that's good. That sounds like a
drink
great
with the price of a full
party.
Yeah, we're giving away a free drink.
Yeah, right.
Our new our Circle Line Downtown. And we're pleased to be working with them. We worked with them last year, and then we'll be doing trips all summer long.
Okay.
They're, usually on Tuesday evenings at 6 o'clock. From the seaport again on the same boat.
Okay.
But Working Harbor Day is coming up in just about
and
3.5 weeks.
You go and you take on some of your tours. So you take them you take people right to where there's containerization.
Well, you saw
and
those
the crane.
pictures.
Yeah, we saw those pictures, and so they can investigate this important part of the way this the harbor and the area around it.
Every time we do a trip, we'll almost always go by a ship. We'll go by barges, and we go to some of these facilities, a lot of these facilities.
And you see a lot of traffic usually out on the harbor when you go out. Our tours, our nighttime tours are usually from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. But from the 6 to 7:30, you're going to you still see a lot of traffic out on the river. So it's a great behind the scenes.
I think it's a great idea. Peter, where'd the idea
we
come?
do guest narrators, talk. We don't just, we know the subject. We'll get people from the industry. Will also kind of help us narrate, or people from the Port Authority and so forth. And so we always have a guest narrator, as well as I do some. We have 2 or 3 other volunteers that do narration.
Okay, and you're involved in the media, are you, yourself, or you have been?
I originally was. I produced shows years ago.
Television?
I did live shows.
Live television?
Multimedia shows, slide video. I did some films.
On various subjects, right?
On various subjects.
Well, no wonder you can put this together so well, so adroitly.
Production, I've always done production.
And we want to show these because you brought in some pictures. Yeah. So we got a chance to show this, and these are some pictures that he shot.
We'll flip through these. Some of them quickly.
Yeah, but let's let him come in tighter. Let's come in on the focus. I'll come in on the focus.
We saw some of these before, but I can kind of point out a couple of things on them.
So could we go ahead? Maybe you can talk to us.
Zooming in here.
Yeah, he's going to zoom in.
Well, this is just a beauty shot of a tugboat.
It is a beauty shot, though. What's wrong? There's nothing necessarily wrong with beauty.
Nothing wrong with a beauty shot.
Look at it. Is that the Empire? Is that the
Statue of Liberty? Right. And if you flip it around,
that would be one you could use as a logo or something, or the Tugboat Association of America.
Well, actually our logo is a tugboat.
Is it really?
Yeah.
Good. Now
flip it around.
Okay.
And
we'll flip this around, and we see this.
That shot again. Where that's how close we get sometimes to the ships, and we actually sometimes have to stop and let them go by.
Wow. So, well, you want to give way.
We don't want to run into one.
No, you want to give way to one of those.
You give way.
Those are big ships.
Yeah.
That's like contemporary. That's like comparable to the super tanker movement, I guess, for the oil.
Now here we have a big tanker, and you see the tugboat, and what that tugboat's doing is pushing the big ship sideways into the port.
Very gently.
And you see there are 2. There's a tugboat in the back. There's one in the front.
Because those ships are really big.
They're big.
And a lot of weight. Exactly and you can't push them, cavalierly into a.
But they're communicating by radio.
Yeah.
And they go slow. Exactly.
Yeah. Right. Okay. And then you got another picture here. These are picture shots. Who's the
Bernie Ente is one of our members.
One of your members. You got a good member. Yeah, they're beautiful, aren't they? Yeah.
The long black hull you see there is a barge. That's an oil barge.
Okay.
Or some other kind of fluid, probably oil, but it's a fluid. And then you see the tugboat alongside, and it's got a tower, right? And the reason is that's so the captain up in the tower can see over the top of the barge. If it weren't for that height, he would be blind.
Barges tend to be of a standard size, like containers?
No, they're all different sizes.
They're all different sizes.
That one looks to be about 200 feet long from the picture.
Okay, and then here's another. What is this?
Ship. This is filled with automobiles. It's a ro-ro ship. And I always like this picture because it shows a dramatic difference in size between the big ship and the little tug trying to push it. But we saw that. We were out in the harbor. These photographs were all taken from our boat.
Right.
And we saw them pushing it right around.
The ships are bigger than ever.
They just need to be, they need some help. Once they get out in the ocean, they're fine.
Yeah.
But when they're in the harbor, sometimes they need the tugs to just get them positioned.
Because they are so huge.
And exactly.
Just think how big a ship is that has to go like that. I mean, it weighs a lot, and they've gotten bigger and bigger.
Bigger.
I mean,
that's why they're
it's economies of scale or something.
They are now adding a third channel to this Panama Canal, a third set of locks.
Are they really?
Because the ships are getting too big for the locks. And they're called post-Panamax ships. Means they're maxed out. You know, they can't go through the Panama Canal anymore.
So we have a standard size for the containers that carry so much.
We have a max size.
But we don't have a standard size for the ships that carry the containers.
We do, but they're getting too big now. They're getting too big. They can't go through the Panama Canal.
And I understand that. So they're getting big because there's economies and them being bigger.
It's still one big engine.
Right. Okay. It's one big engine. Okay. Here's another picture.
This is another pretty picture of a tugboat. Which one is that? Seawolf. Yeah, one of our friends.
You probably never get sick of seeing tugboats, right? No. It's like a great mascot or something.
Now, I said, crossing the harbor. There used to be the only way to, there used to be a lot of these. The only way to get freight cars when there was a lot of rail from New Jersey into Manhattan or Brooklyn. Well, not as much. There's still this company running.
So what are they going? These containers are going mostly by truck?
These are not containers. These are railroad cars.
Oh, these are railroad cars. Okay. Well,
these are freight cars, just like off a train.
Okay. Containers are mostly carried away from the harbor by trucks, or are they carried by train?
Sometimes by train also.
But they were covered, on
flat cars.
You don't know what the percentage of it, and what's the status of the rail industry as opposed to trucking, and what's going on in
I can tell you this though, in terms of pollutants, by the way, trucks are the worst. So everything that we do to get trucks off the highway, whether it's rail, which is better, or ships, which is better yet, it is less pollutants in the air.
Okay, that's interesting. That's an interesting dynamic.
That's the same thing.
The same picture. Okay, here we go.
This is exactly. Here are the cranes.
Yeah,
you can see about 6 cranes in a row there, and you see the boxes. And these cranes out over the ship, they lift the cranes up. They lift the boxes up. There's the hook right there. If you can come in to see it. Goes down, lifts up one of these containers, brings it back and drops it down to land, and then from there another carrier, or they'll drop it right on the truck or onto a carrier that'll take it to a truck.
And this is actually the scene
or a railroad car.
That when the students go on the port terminal tour, that they see exactly from the terminal itself.
Oh, that's the time you had the kids that go up with the. Or you don't want
I don't think we should talk about
making whoopee or something like that. What are you talking about?
No, they actually, were able to go up in the elevator to see.
Anyway,
how these cranes work.
The thing, how long does it take the offloading or the onloading? How much of it is involved?
It's hours. It used to be days. Now it's hours.
Really? They can take and unload.
Once they start to unload. 2 to 3 cranes will work on one ship at the same time. One this end, one this end, one in the middle, depending on the size of the ship. And they just keep going, and they just go.
Yeah, but but it's all part of a supply chain. So it's coming down, and if you load it right onto a railroad, then another car would come. You load it on a railroad, or do they have a place where they stop?
What they do,
they stack them.
They stack them on a dock, on a wharf.
They have warehouses usually that they'll bring them into.
So the unloading of the ship as fast as you can is an important economic thing they want to do, so the ship can get moving again.
Sure.
And then they load them in a warehouse, and then they have the trucks and or the trains that come to take those containers around the country.
Yeah.
Yes.
And those things are loaded with the idea in China of a bunch of stuff. Do they have a container that's bound for, say, Chicago?
Sure.
Another one for somewhere else. Like they must have efficiencies built in to the whole supply chain.
This is all the logistics, which is again a very lucrative part of the industry to go in as far as jobs.
But you used to be able to go into the industry by hauling burlap bags off a ship. Now it's getting very automated. The whole process seems to be automating. And couldn't they automate this stuff more and more?
They are.
They are. It seems the whole world is automating.
Oh, yeah.
I just saw an article.
2 of our 3 cameras in this shoot are automated.
Are automated, yeah, but they do have a control. Have we shown this one?
Yes.
Yeah, I think you did, yeah.
Okay.
This is just a pretty shot of one of New York City's fireboat. This is Alfred E. Smith, and you can see the nozzles up in the front, and there's some nozzles in the back. That's how they use the spray.
And they use the water from the river. Yeah.
All fireboats use the water from the river.
Right. Okay.
And here's another one.
There's one.
This is John J.
forth.
Harvey. This is the retired fireboat that we take kids out on. You know, it's a not-for-profit, but you can see us spraying water. That's just done for display. You know, when you're fighting a fire, it's a whole different story.
Right, right.
And we're doing a display.
Well,
for
it's pretty dramatic.
It's a beautiful thing.
It's a beautiful thing as a.
Right.
Barnum and Bailey,
it's great. It's gorgeous.
Yeah, that kind of. Now we got a couple more of these. What's this?
Well, this is again.
This is the tugboat race.
This is the tugboat race, and it's a good shot of the start. Somebody was on one of the tugs that took this picture, and he was right in the middle of the pack. So he took a shot going down the line.
Do we have a man of war?
One of our sponsors, Lucy Reinauer. Reinauer Tugs is one of our.
That's a company?
A company. There's McAllister, there's Reinauer, there's Moran.
So who's the Calumet Farms of the tugboat racing industry? Calumet Farms is the one who had a citation and all the winning horses.
Oh, okay.
You know, who's the champion tugboat of all time?
Well, they've all won at various times. Reinauer has been one of them.
Do they take it seriously?
Oh, yes.
So they're not just, it's not just fun. Yeah.
No. They take it very seriously.
Yeah. Is there any money exchange in the form of wagers?
No money. This is all for fun.
No wagers or anything like that? They don't wager on the side?
None.
They don't do that?
They don't drink.
Tugboat captain? They don't. But they tattoo. But they tattoo.
They do tattoo.
With regularity. That's an interesting group of people.
All right, now you see this boat and this boat.
Got a couple more.
Nose to nose. Okay, pushing. So you're going to see who's stronger. It's a pushing contest.
Is that part of the tugboat thing?
Part of the tugboat day.
That's like a couple rams out in the field or something, or bull elephants or something, right?
You can't tell from the photograph who won, but you know.
So who's the champion tugboat in the world? Who comes out on top all the time?
Well, it depends on the horsepower.
Who's the Tiger Woods of the tugboat world?
There are several that have several thousand, like 8,000 horsepower and up. And they
you have different classes.
Yeah, we class 5. There are some that are hundreds of horsepower, some 2,000 or 3,000 horsepower, 4,000 or 5,000 horsepower, and 6,000 and up. You know.
So it's a different thing like that. Yeah. Okay, well that's interesting. See, this is a world that kids would be interested in. I know I am. I got the kid in me. But
now you see the line down here in the cleat. There's a guy on the other end. He's thrown that line, and he literally, because tugboats don't necessarily depend, or fireboats or any boats, on someone being on the dock. They come into a dock, they'll throw the line, or if they're picking up a barge, they'll throw the line and capture the cleat and then tie it off. So it becomes an art to be able to capture the cleat.
Do they have competition?
And so we do a competition, and the deal is we time them, and also if they hit the dock, we take points off, right?
If they hit the dock with the boat?
Yeah, they can't hit the dock. They've got to come in just to the right speed, throw the line, capture it, and whoever's fastest.
Sounds like a fun picnic of a day and everything.
Yeah.
Might have it would be good to have a few glasses of beer or something, I would think, on a hot August afternoon.
Yeah.
Has that been known to happen?
After the races.
Oh, after the races.
After the races.
Of course,
Absolutely.
boys and girls.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then this goes here.
You know this guy.
Absolutely.
Who that is? I can't see.
It's Jack.
That's Captain Jack.
Yeah.
Oh, that's Captain Jack himself, right?
Yeah. That's Captain Jack. And actually, they run a not-for-profit. They do educational programs.
Okay, talk about
on the tug urger.
Oh, he's somebody that's well known around in your circles, right?
Yes. They operate out of the New York Canal system, I believe, is the is who runs the program. But they come down. They go all around.
He brings his boat down from upstate, from the Erie Canal.
From the Erie Canal.
And works with school children. They come all the way down all summer long and stop at different places.
But he started that tattoo a year ahead of
That's Captain Jack.
That's Captain Jack. And he wanted to win this contest so bad, he started that tattoo a year ahead of time. That's what we're
and I would like to just say for a few minutes is another program that we implemented, and this is thanks to Manhattan Borough President Scott Stringer, who has given us a multi-year grant. This will be our second year where we actually take out seniors. It's just seniors from senior centers throughout Manhattan on a 2-hour Hidden Harbor tour, which is absolutely terrific.
I think anybody wouldn't it? It's inherently interesting, isn't it?
Yeah.
And the educational implications, I think people that are involved in it and everybody who's involved in that supply chain, and we all are in a way, how did that stuff get there and what the efficiencies are and everything. It's really interesting. And to my way of thinking, you actually, I don't mean to do, how am I going to say this? This would be a labor of love on your part to a large degree, I would think.
But,
I mean, you have considerations, but congratulate Peter and the people who put it together, and you were involved from the get-go, as it were.
Yeah.
What a good idea. Must be fun
It's
to have something beginning to take off and everything.
It's fun, and it's growing every year, and we're very pleased. You know, organization. We incorporated as a not-for-profit about 3 years ago, and we have a fundraiser, and obviously we try to do what we can to support ourselves as we do this. So that's becomes important.
Now, one thing
we
is
go to elected officials, the foundations, the industry itself.
Okay, one thing that's sure to happen, because you're going to end up with an association of such people. And so, do they have something like this going at Long Beach? Do they have it going at you know, the harbors of Japan and China? And so you could have an association. You all could get together, and then you could have competitions and so forth. Are they doing this anywhere else where they celebrate the harbor the way you people are? Because it's inherently interesting, and you could have competition and so forth, or not camaraderie between the peoples that are on the other end and where the boats are coming from, and build a sense of global unity and that kind of stuff, and set up an association and have conferences and
Who
that
knows?
sort of thing.
I don't know.
You don't know of anybody else?
of another
Only
group
New
like
York?
ours.
Oh, New York has to lead the way again. They're leading the way in everything. They
I know there are some other tugboat races in other places, and there are probably some other tours, but I couldn't tell you. But I will say that the Hidden Harbor tours, which we do here, that's our name, and it's we can do them anywhere we want. But we're still trying to get
spread out the territory.
We don't want to.
Are we?
We don't want to grow too far.
No, you're
too
sure?
fast,
You want to just grow steady, right?
Steady, exactly.
And you don't necessarily have to go and find new territory up in Buffalo or something. But these harbors are there, and it's an intrinsic part of the world.
Component.
Yeah, and they're all getting into a standardized thing and everything. It's inherently interesting. Well, I really think it's really very interesting. I congratulate you very much on it, and like to be in touch with you. I'd like to see maybe go on a Hidden Harbor tour sometime.
Well, the thing I want to do is let people know our website, because that's how
by all
people
means
can find out.
Well, we better get it in. We're 56 minutes into 58, so the website is...
It's easy to remember, because it's just 2 words, Working Harbor.
Working Harbor, WORKINGHARBOR
Exactly,
.org. We'll take you to the site.
It's pretty easy to remember.
Yeah.
And at that website, we will, right now we're featuring our Hidden Harbor, Working Harbor Day, Working Harbor Day.
Yeah, that's good.
Which is coming up on the 18th of May.
18th of May. And would there be any in the media, any newspaper notice of that?
Yes, we'll certainly hope so.
You got a
we'll be
budget for that, okay.
And they can actually order tickets online. There'll be a button, they can go online, they can click and order tickets. Or which is the best thing to do, is to order them ahead of time. Through our partner, Circle Line Downtown. So they'll go on their website, you order the tickets, and then come down. There's also going to be music. There's going to be other things that the Seaport's doing and other events, but the main event's going to be that.
We're partnering with the South Street Seaport Museum, so they will also have activities. All this information is online, and there's links to all the other organizations.
And these activities do take place, let's say, in the summer months, say August or July or May.
Working Harbor Day is only one day.
Yeah.
That's coming up in May. It's always around somewhere between the 18th and 20th of May. So this year is the 18th of May. Okay. Then, starting in June, on Tuesday nights, we'll be doing Hidden Harbor tours June, July, August, September.
What a great idea, and what a great thing. What a great little outing for people to do and do that. And
people do it, and they come back, because we get a lot of our customers come back because they want to see it again.
Yeah, right.
It's always different every trip.
Yeah, it's inherently interesting.